Always on my mind, God. I've never had the strength to make a change. But I don't want you to break from me. 'Cause I know I'm running out of time, girl. I've never had a chance to be myself. But I don't want you to forget me.
Alright, what's up? Seem to be having audio. Let me know if I'm unfocused. I think I'm focused. Should move this monitor probably. So, what's up? This is the Q&A this week. A new segment. I don't know, this is like a trial. I don't know what this is going to be. But I thought I would kind of incorporate some type of news segment into this. Right now, cue the intro. Don't have intro yet. Might fix an intro, might have to start using Wirecast or something to get that working. But for now, this is not the intro. So I would just run through, I thought, a couple of news that I found interesting or worthwhile kind of just touching on. And then questions. Or mix it up, I don't know. But one thing that I found here just scrolling the news was... Where was it? Where are you? Here we go. I found a video here that I think people should check out. It's a Vimeo staff pick. That's pretty damn amazing. Lake Baikal, is that what it's called? There's a Vimeo staff pick, short 146 minutes. Let me just see what it's called. This one people should actually watch for inspiration. Yep. It's Diamond Sky Productions. Yeah, and that's Vimeo. Vimeo works like that. You can't really play the videos. They have an issue. But still, that drone footage. Anyway, check that video out. Looks really good. What else? There was a lot of stuff that I found. There was one tip here on what you should always carry with you. Like, this screen is so small compared to my other computer, so this is really annoying because I can't really see anything on it. Okay, so that was just like the first question, or the first news thing that I discovered. Another thing was, don't care about Instagram. Here's why you should. And I thought that I would just mention why I think it really matters for filmmakers. The thing is, we have this YouTube channel. You're our audience. And that's great and all. But it doesn't resonate in work. Like, it doesn't make anybody hire me for commercials. It has, some commercials has been kind of scouted that way, but it's very rare. What is, though, very common is that people are scouting Instagram for talent. So whether you're a DP or you're a production company, a director, you should have an Instagram present. That's just the way it is, because that's where people are hanging out. So people that aren't following us because they're not consuming YouTube, they might be on Instagram, which they are. So a lot of the people that follow us on Instagram are the creatives or the people at the agencies. So it's easy for us to kind of keep in front of their eyes with the work that we do, anything like the style that we promote, that sort of stuff, by being on Instagram. So our presence on Instagram is not at all about building an audience there. It's all about having the people that we work with, the people that are agencies and that sort of thing in our funnel, so to speak. So when we upload something to that place, it is mainly towards trying to create a style and show a style that we stand for. That is why I think Instagram really matters, even though the audience building, that's a whole nother thing. And another thing with Instagram is that it's a great way to reach out to people. Twitter used to be that, but it's so like, yeah, not what it was once upon a time. Still is, though, for journalists. But for other people, like for instance, when we went to LA, we hooked up with Mango Street just because, you know, they had less followers on Instagram, so it made sense to contact them there. And then that happened, and we went out for a cup of coffee and all that. So that is an easy way for you to kind of get through the clutter, because that's where people are. And it's the same for if you want to work with somebody. Instagram is also fantastic. Okay. Next thing I discovered, and if you want to read this, I'm just mainly this time basing this on F-Stoppers articles. So if you have any other suggestions of where I should kind of look and think about stuff or comment on stuff, then let me know. Another thing, the newest lighting trend, bisexual light. I think that's amazing. Look at it. This is something that's very common for dark skinned. So this is the trend. It looks good. It looks good. Can you see? You've seen this in music videos and like artists and all that. But I like this light. It's a really stylistic type of light, but if you want to check it out, check it out. That's what they are calling it. I don't know if it's called that. But it's basically working with gels with like magenta and pink, blue and pink. Yeah, love that. And now I thought I would go through a list that is pretty interesting, because this is like 16 crucial items that I take to every photo shoot, and I thought I would just apply it to how I think about things. First off, headlight. Should always have a headlight. I don't always have it, but almost always. But because you have a phone and you can just light with that, that's you know, comfortable as well. But you should always have a headlight, because then you have your hands free. So that's a great way to do things. I would love a headlight that can function as an additional light. I know that Chris Burkhardt, he works with headlights a lot of the time. That's what is so powerful about it, because the lights are so strong now, but you need to have a way to kind of diffuse the thing. What do you think about headlights? Hand warmers, totally overrated, I feel. But if you like hand warmers, have hand warmers. I prefer warm gloves. Universal phone charger. I mean, I have universal power, so I have a V-Lock battery that has USB and it has the D-tap cable. Those are so powerful to have, and then I have the power banks, but other than that I just charge my phone, and I have chargers for everything else. USB battery pack, very important, have it. Screwdriver, I have a like kind of Leatherman thing, very important. But if you have a Leatherman, you need to remember to put it out when you go through customs, which I always forget. I actually, when we were traveling the last time, and this was to the States, we got there and I found the Leatherman in the hand luggage. That could have gone really, really bad. It didn't though. But funny enough, it was in Andre's bag. So that was, yeah, he wasn't too happy about that. Okay, so 6, medication. Medication, yes, yes. Allergy, antihistamines for me. Protection from the sun, yeah, this can be a hard lesson to learn when you get your sunburn filming EDM in Miami in a spring after winter, like I did a couple of years ago. Not a good thing to not have your sunscreen on. Heavy duty garbage bags, I always carry them. They are so fundamental in getting the gear dry when it's raining. You can always kind of tape them together, use them with gaffer tape, perfect. Bungee cords, I don't use bungee cords so much, but I use the, what do you call them, like the straps that you kind of tighten things with. Pen and paper, no. Mobile phone, ditch that whole old school stuff. Space blanket, I don't even know what that is, but I guess it's for somebody who likes to keep their knees soft and cushiony. I would not take that. Tent pegs. I don't know. Maybe. Doesn't take that much space, but who would want tent pegs? Spare change. I used to always travel with dollars because you never know where you're at. But nowadays, like, I've found that I don't even need that. You usually can pay with whatever, your phone or, yeah. Snacks. Power bar, always. Tennis balls. I don't carry tennis balls, but you should slice up tennis balls and put them on tripods if you're at somebody's place where you don't want to ruin the floors and you have heavy-duty tripods or whatever. That's a good thing, good rule to have. Don't ruin people that lend you their houses place. 16, plug cubes. I don't know what that is either. Plug cube. Oh, maybe that's like a universal power cube or what? It must be. Yeah, you should always have that. Yeah, that's what it is. Or is it? No, it's not. It's like a plug cube. Okay, so it's just like a one of those where you can have more outlets than one. I mean, yeah, sure, but why not carry like a... Yeah, maybe I should. These doesn't exist in Sweden, I think. But carry a plug cube if you want. But a universal adapter for all the countries that you travel, that's what you should have. Okay, so... that was like news segment. Should I talk about news in the next Q&A? Let me know. These were just my thoughts on like a couple of news things that I've seen this week, past week. Questions. First one. How and why should doc filmmakers make mood films? I think for me, I actually want to do that more. But I want to do short films more than mood films now. But the main reason for it is that if you want to do TVC commercials, like television commercials, a lot of the people that kind of look for inspiration, or a lot of the way that they look at talent, at directors, for instance, or whatever it is, it's just like 30 seconds or a minute. That's what you got. So if you do mood films, it's easier to be consistent with the style, with you can show talent, you have to show that to creatives if you want to work with like stuff that's interesting, in my opinion. And for that, mood films are like amazing. For me as a filmmaker, like telling a story, it doesn't make much sense. It doesn't kind of challenge me. Maybe I can try something, but it's more to kind of show what you can do and keep a consistent type of style. That's what I like about it. I like that you can kind of do that easily with not a lot of resources. You can just look at like Tim Kellner, for instance. He does a lot of mood films. He doesn't have any budget. He just goes out with his camera. And I think he's got a potential to really do like high-end commercials, but for that to happen, I think he needs to work with like, more experienced producers, and people around him need to be much more like players. But just looking at the videos, you see that he has the talent for it, but then it has to translate to, for instance, him running a crew, not working alone, those things. But what a mood film can do is show you how your vision is and how strongly and consistent that is, and that's what mood films are great for. I don't use that for like pitching to work at the moment. For that, I think like if you want work, mood films are good, but doing a short film that's like a real short has much more potential of earning you jobs or making you stand out. The Vimeo staff pick way has been like the way for people to establish themselves and get a career going in the film industry for a long time. It's still so valuable. Like Vimeo is just like falling apart, but if you look at the staff picks, it has such an impact on you landing a creative work with a big brand. Vimeo Staff Picks is the way to go for that. But for that, mood films doesn't make as much sense. This film that I showed in the beginning of this Q&A, that was pretty much a mood film in Siberia. But that film, it's still like a short, it has a feeling, like it is like 1:40 minutes or 1 minute and 40 seconds or something. And it shows like a mood and a consistent thing. I think that film can probably be enough for him to, or her, to get work for a long time just because of that style. That's what mood films are great for. But if you do a short, then it has a bigger impact emotionally on people, and that can have a bigger impact. That's my thought on it. Okay, Hank, I'm doing a bike tour for 5 years around the world. You gotta be kidding me, that's like a dream. I want to document the trip through photos and creating videos. Any quick tips and suggestions? Yeah, just start documenting. Check out, like, I'm so fascinated by this dude in, what is he called? Like, oh, I don't remember. He bikes like Canada down to South America. Like a crazy ass dude. Let me see what he's called. I watched so many of his films, and it's just like, it's not very like good as a like a film. What do you call film making? Or, yeah, I don't know. Language barrier. But if you look at how he tells stories and how personal he is, amazes me. He's so good at it. I don't understand, because I haven't seen anything from him in a while, but maybe he stopped uploading. Let me just check, because I should be subscribed to him. But he went on his bike through the national parks and everything. He just rode his bike from Canada and down to South America. Like, he did it a couple of times. He rode a lot of national parks, like this crazy ass dude that does it in the winter. Amazing. And amazing videos in terms of just like you are there with him experiencing everything. But I'm guessing, because I haven't seen anything in a while, he must have stopped or something. Can't seem to find him. I think he's Russian. Anybody in the comment section that knows it? 1 year on a bike. Yeah, still, that's what he did, I think. Let me just see if I can find the guy. What was he called? Can't seem to find him. That sucks. I want to see something again. You know, he's crazy because he just goes on his bike, and he's a little bit like, if you've seen Grizzly Man, the Werner Herzog film, it's a bit like that. He's too close to bears. He's just like randomly stupid, but it's so entertaining. Let me just check. Biking Canada, he must come up. Oh, oops. Biking. Yeah, Johan. Okay, so this is hard for anybody to pronounce that isn't Russian. I'm gonna write it in the chat. But Johan Okay, there we go. Did I actually post it? Yeah. Oops. Wrong first name. Johan. Okay, there you got it in the chat. Check him out if you haven't already. Like, he is amazing. He's got like 35k or something subscribers, but he does amazing videos about biking. And I think if you look at what he does, just copy that and make it your style. Make it like the personal stuff that you can make. Then I think you have it. Like, this is so amazing. I'm so intrigued by his whole thing. You can definitely look at it and make it more effective, because it's not very good if you look at the editing and that sort of thing. It's good enough, but if you're a talented filmmaker, you can probably step that whole game up top notch. Use a drone, use one camera. I think that should be like enough. I don't know if I think he used GoPros or something. I'm not a big fan of GoPros, but I can imagine that it's pretty hard to kind of charge everything and doing all that. But this is like fantastic. I did one of these things just for a weekend a couple of years ago. I did all of it on Instagram. I think it was before the vlog started. I wish I would have documented it at that time, because it was like an amazing thing where I went like 10 kilometers in 2 days or something like that, so just one night. But that whole journey, there's so much stuff that you could have told a story around, and that's what you kind of just need to go on the road and do stuff and just let people hang out with you. I think that's the amazing part of it. I really want to do something like that in the future. Yeah, Johan is the man. He's so fantastic. Like, yeah, Werner Herzog, good. Okay, so next one, Dust35. Thoughts on shoulder rigs? Do you use them? Like it? I actually don't like them anymore. I used to have one, but I prefer the Easy Rig. I think you should look into the Easy Rig, the smaller one, if you can afford it, the Mini Max or whatever it's called, because that gives you so much more fluidity in terms of like reaching low angles and all that. With the shoulder rig, you're very much in the same position all the time, and I got shoulder problems, so I wouldn't recommend a shoulder rig long term. But I do have a shoulder mount for the Ursa, which means that I have these handles. They're on it right now, so the handles comes out like that, and then I have just a pad, and that's the shoulder rig that I have. But I wouldn't use it if I didn't have the Easy Rig, because that would be too heavy to lug around each day. So for that, I think I use small rig, and I've built it up from their parts. Yeah, so check out small rig, and check out, I think it's Tilta who makes the handles, which are good, like wooden handles. But then there's one for the Ursa as well, for like the digital control. Yeah, Jan, hello from Amsterdam. Hello, Amsterdam. Alex, South Africa. I'm actually coming to South Africa soon, I think. And let me see. Where do you get the music to use in your films? In terms of like YouTube, sometimes I just use anything, like copyrighted stuff. And then you can't monetize off them, and that's fine, I think, a lot of the time. But most of the time I use Artlist, and I use Epidemic Sound. So Artlist is really good if you want like original songs from artists, and Epidemic Sound is really good if you want more like stems and try to build up more moods and that sort of thing. Then Epidemic is much better. Epidemic is Swedish, so good thing also. And Artlist, I think, is Israeli. Yeah, those are the ones that I mainly use, and then I use composers when I can. And sometimes people send me stuff, like for instance, I've used a lot from this guy. I think it's the guy. Ooh, let me see. So he sent me his stuff, like his album, and it's so good. I would easily use it in a feature film. Let me just see what it's called, because maybe you can find him on SoundCloud and get him to. Why? Can't find him. Okay, it's loading. It's just slow. Why is it so slow? Loading my files. Okay, damn it. It's used in the mood films. If you check out the like emotions, I think there you have the person. Okay, What's the most important thing to have for job interviews or client work? It's so diverse in terms of like what you should have depending on like who it is. So for instance, we're pitching to Adidas tomorrow, and for that you need to study up on like what they do, what they want to have like as a collaboration, what needs they have. Like ask them if you can, like, because we went into a pitch a couple of days ago, like a week ago or something, where we weren't the ones that did all the preparation, and then we come there and we don't know anything and we're just going to follow along, and we noticed that okay, so we're pitching to somebody something that is way off of what they want. You don't want that, so you need to study up on what they want, because that's going to be more like less waste of your time, less waste of their time, and you're going to have a bigger success rate. Damn it, Netherlands is calling. Wonder who that is. Hilversum, Netherlands, North Holland. Anyway, so you need to kind of create like a pitch in your mind or on paper, depending on what the work is. So for us, we're going into meeting talking about like content, strategy, creation type of thing, like how we can work together in order for us to kind of work with their Swedish strand and see if we can collaborate some way. So then we go in with like a perspective of like, okay, so what do they need and what can we offer? Because we can offer a lot of things, but you have to nail it down to what they actually want and need. And then you need to research for that. And then you need to kind of make a pitch that's focused around those things that they need. Because you can do a general pitch, but it's going to be much less successful than if you do one that's really tailored to each type of thing that you're doing. And that's like in terms of preparation, that's what you need to do. And sometimes that means like doing a pitch document or a pitch deck. Sometimes that just means that you need to just read up on them in order for you to kind of hone in on what you should talk about to them, or what projects that you have that you should show, because you shouldn't show the same projects for like each type of thing. Like for instance, we have one client that we work with, a big agency in Sweden, does a lot of stuff that is trying to change the world. That's one way of describing it. And they want that. They want the reality and that sort of thing. Other people just want the humor and the comedy stuff or whatever it is. Then you need to kind of separate those depending on who you're meeting with. But then we also just created like a general show reel. So you should probably have a general show reel that you can show how diverse and what style you have. That's also important. Maybe a minute or two, and then like just bring one or two of your best projects and show them or show a part of them and talk about it. But be prepared to kind of talk up your project, like pitch them up. Yeah, I think that's it. Just do the research. Do you have a personal Instagram and a professional one? I do, but I don't use the personal one, I just have it. I used to use it for the feed, because it was nicer to have like a certain feed for it, that's just me. Andre is also using Creative North, so that was nice, but now I just feel like I'm lazy like that. I just feel it takes too much time to switch the accounts, so I don't switch the accounts. Like it's just a waste of time. I don't know, I don't use the Instagram that much for like consuming stuff anymore. I used to do that a lot, but I don't know, it hasn't happened. I'm much more into YouTube in terms of like watching videos, so it doesn't make sense for me to spend as much time there. But for some people that makes sense. Like I wanted it to be Creative North because I wanted it to be like something that's more than me, so I don't have to be the only one running it. And then that's a good thing. But if you want to have it tied to your personal account, then do that. Like a lot of people switch to personal. Like Maddie, for instance, Maddie Hapoya of Travel Fields, he switched to Maddie Hapoya after a while. And now that's what it's called. Yeah. Okay. are you planning more in-depth color grading masterclass, and are you happy with the response from your first masterclass? Yeah, I'm so far it's really good with the whole masterclass. Like we're starting to develop it now. So first we're gonna just add things to that course. So we're gonna update it to be Resolve 15, and we're gonna update certain examples to have more different types of examples, like one for maybe drones, those types of things. So that's going to be like the first step, and then we're probably going to add, but that's probably going to be a year later or something that we do another one, because first we want to do one masterclass on like documentary filmmaking from like beginning to end, and that's going to be based a lot around all the videos that we've done for the channel for the past 2 years. Those are going to be curated into a masterclass, and that's going to be just like structured in a way that is like chapters where you can easily find it, because it's like dreadful to do that on YouTube. Even though there's playlists, it doesn't really make sense. So that's like one thing that we're going to do first, and then we're going to launch a Netflix how to sell your film to Netflix course. And then after that, we're thinking of what we should do. So if you have any suggestions of like what classes you would like, let us know, because we're still thinking about it and thinking about the best way of kind of launching them. For this one, we just needed to launch it, so we didn't do a pre-launch, but in the future we're probably going to do pre-launching of all the courses. What are your thoughts using cheaper lights? I see some great use of the Aperture 120D or Westcott Flex light. Only problem is that V-Lock batteries are fairly expensive. Is there anything cheaper? I also use the Travor. Is it Travor? Yeah, Travor lights in the ceiling here. Like they're permanently mounted. I like the Westcott lights to travel because they're more like sturdy and doesn't break that easy. But that whole thing is cheaper. It's not like dirt cheap, but it's much cheaper than the Westcott lights, I think. I really like those. I think that they're really good. You have a remote control with a dimmer, a little bit off in the color balance, but that you can fix with gels. I don't know if they have like 1x1. These are 2x1, I think. Yeah. Those are good, but in general, just because that's like permanently here in the ceiling, it makes sense to have them. Another one that I use, this is from like your regular Home Depot type of thing. It's like these LED lights. Like this is not something that's expensive or anything, it's just like Home Depot, but you should get the ones that are pretty balanced in terms of color. This is 6000 Kelvin, so it's not like 5000. It's not 5600 that you would ideally have, but I mean 6000, it's easy. If you want to gel that one, you can gel it, and then you have a pretty balanced light and all that. Those I like. I like also the LED tubes that are like this big that you can buy off of eBay. Those are also good. I have those. Like that's one of those. That's come on, LED strip. That's cheap. That can change color. Pointing isn't my thing. Inverted pointing. And then. What was I thinking? Yeah, but in general I feel lights, because LEDs have become pretty cheap, I like to kind of invest in them for the long run. So I think they're this big. These are my favorite lights. They're Pipeline. Is this 1 foot? Yeah, this is 1 foot, right? So Pipeline 1 foot. BBS Pipeline 1 foot. I think those are so freaking awesome, because you have a dimmer, you can plug it into a V-Lock, you can plug it into any battery that has this regular this type of connector, like very common, and then you can plug it into the car lighting, like 12 volt type of thing, super diverse, and you have a dimmer on it. It it's pretty bright. It's not, you know, as bright as the 120D that I'm using here, but it's really good. That one costs a little bit, just like the Westcott light, but the sturdiness and like the longevity in terms of how long you will have it, you will get the money back, I think. Especially if you have something that you're traveling with. Yeah, that's at least like how I think about it. If I would like move around with the Westcott versus the travel lights, I did a comparison, so check that video out with like cheap versus expensive LED light. So you can probably find that on the channel, but that's comparing Westcott to the travel light, and I think that one kind of shows you like the pros and cons of it. Yeah, I think if you also check out the packing light gear video, that has the pipeline 1 foot. I always carry the pipeline on 1 foot with me in my backpack. Okay. Could we send you original songs? Yes, you can, definitely. I don't think we have like a general email address for it. What would it be? No, Andre is in a meeting, so I can't really ask him. But is it creativenorth@gmail.com? I think it's Creative North TV. Must be. Let me see. Yeah, creativenorthtv@gmail.com. Send it there. When are you coming to South Africa? If you're coming here to film, I would like to film work for you for free. Otherwise, it would be amazing to meet up. You can see my work on my channel. Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure when. We're still like costing the people. We have like 2 people that we think are good, but it's probably going to be in Cape Town. I don't know where you're at, Alex, but let me know. And also, yeah, email the Creative North email, and then let us know where you're at, and yeah, if you're available. I think it's going to be like late, like maybe. I'm guessing that it's going to be after the summer. I'm not sure, because we're going to Canada first in June or May, not sure. Soon. Do you think you always have to travel to a different country to get inspired? I think you have to experience things all the time to get inspired, but not necessarily. Like, I want new, fresh things. So for me, I think it's worthwhile to see other cultures, and to understand like the world, and telling stories about the world. You need that. But in terms of, if you just want to tell stories about your hometown, or if you want to tell stories about your home country, then it's sufficient to just meet people there that are different. It doesn't have to be traveling in that sense. But you need to experience things, like different things. Yeah, and I agree, it gets you in a non-creative state to kind of be in the everyday life. I think traveling just makes you more open to stuff, and I think it like seeing things for the first time, that's when you get inspired. Like when you see a film about something that is the first time that you experience that type of style or something, and you get like this aha moment, that's when inspiration really strikes. When you see it the second time, it's boring and it's like copycatting and that sort of thing. But the first time is always special. Do you or your family think it's hard to be away for a longer time for work? How do you handle a long recording period? It kind of depends. Like it's harder when you have kids, but now I try to not be away so much, and I try to be away for like a short period of time. This time that we're going to Canada is probably going to be the first time that's a little bit longer. But other than that, I try to kind of stay here as much as I can, especially now because I just got a kid about a month and a half ago. But I actually went to the States for a job just a week or two after we got that kid. But that was something that was like pre-booked a year before, so it wasn't really something I could do anything about. And like working in this type of work where you have created like a career out of actually traveling and making stories about people that are from other places, it's not an easy shift. And I'm home most of the time. Like it takes me 1 minute to walk up to my house once I turn this off. So then it's something that's, you know, it's more effective. So I'm rarely away when I'm home. And then that's how you need to do it. If you want to have a family, if you don't want to have a family, then travel, and then that's fine too. But I just think that when you kind of want to settle down somehow, you kind of value stuff in a different way. And the way I do it is I work usually really early, so I get up at like 4 in the morning, and then I work, long day, but then, you know, then I turn stuff off and I don't respond to anything after, like when I leave. Then I just play with my kids and that sort of thing. So you need to kind of set those limits for it to work, especially if you travel. I used to be away much more. I used to travel for like months at a time. I don't do that much anymore. I usually try to get budget so I can go more like spread out. Usually when you don't have money, you're forced to go for a long period of time because that's all you can afford. Because it's easier to kind of put like a production in a month's time, and you know that you're finished, you've shot everything pretty much for a film. That's easier than to have it spread out, like doing 4 or 5 trips or something like that. Yeah. But usually I also try to combine like commercial work with me doing work on the feature films that I make. So when we were in LA a couple of weeks ago, we were there to shoot a commercial, but we also had meetings with agents and that sort of thing for the feature film that we're making. And we also made the short film about TJ, like 9-year-old skateboarder. For like, we had 2 hours to shoot him, and that's what we made out of it. Was pretty cool to kind of see how fast and effective you can be, because it turned out great. For like doing it in 2 hours without any prep, just finding him on Instagram and writing to him and talking with his dad and kind of setting it up. Yeah, just that's what I think about it. Hey man, do you have any tips on titles? Where to put titles on the screen, fonts, and how long should they be on screen? Thanks. I think it's a funny thing when you look at titles in terms of how brands think about it, because they don't think that there's like a pause button, and they don't think that if somebody's really interested they can't go back or something. I usually want to have them short enough so that people don't click away. I think people, for instance, when we make a lot of commercials, a lot of them want to have some form of text that tells the story, and I kind of despise that. I think it's just like it's something that you don't need. If you tell a story, then everything should be there. You shouldn't need it, and if you need it, you should only have it like one time in the beginning or something, and then you should have it. The rest of the story should be told like through the visual language of film, not through the titling of telling a story. And then like titling in terms of titling of title for a film, or for instance for names, then that's something different. But a lot of the people that I work with want to have too much in the text, and I think it loses a lot of people. I think that's it's a really ineffective strategy if you want to hook people onto something, and it's become common just because of all these Instagram and Facebook videos that uses that, but they use it in a snappy way. They don't like put a lot of text on the screen. If you can't do the copywriting the right way, like short, snappy, then you shouldn't do it. Then you shouldn't do text. I think that's the hardest thing, to kind of shorten the text to be essential and still carry like your message and emotion better. But in terms of where to put it, there's a lot of books on like graphic designs. There's a lot of like if you look at titling, like title sequences for films, there was one guy, like when I studied, because I studied graphic design, when I did that, I used to like watch so many title sequences. I used to do a lot of After Effects and that sort of thing. I like that, but now the more I do docs, the less I care about the titling. Like I care about how it's placed and I care about like how it feels and how it looks, but I think I just want it to be clean and simple, and usually that's the best way in anything. Like don't overcomplicate it. So if you keep to like the rules of how to kind of design things, like how to work with, there's a lot of thoughts about how to work with grids, for instance, and how to place things, but generally I think most of the time it works to just center the thing and use a background in terms of an image that isn't too much distractions. But I don't know what to recommend because it was so long ago since I studied, and I have most of my graphic design books is in Swedish. But I know that there is a really famous guy that used to do everything. I think he did. Because you should look at his title sequences. Let me just see so that nobody in the chat has recommended somebody. Nope. Okay, so let me see. Title sequences, motion graphics. I don't even remember who he is. Like he was such a big inspiration to most people. Yeah, here he is. Saul Bass. Let me just write it in the chat. You should check out what Saul Bass does. Or did. I don't know if he's still alive. He should be. Let me just pop this article into the chat. Tiling. And just like get inspired from that, I think. But I think Saul Bass does so much like high-end stuff, and that's probably harder to kind of look at. But if you analyze what they do, you can probably simplify it. I'm more of a fan of kind of doing graphic design in a very simplistic way. So these are not the type of titling that I would go for. But I think it's good to kind of look at both. But it's just like composing photography. That's how you should think of the titling and placing it like in an interesting way like that. And in the right place where it really adds something, and not just for like having the titles be pressed into it. Hope that helps. And how long? Yeah, I talked about that. Most people want it so long that you can read it, so a couple of seconds, and usually that's longer than I want. Fonts, yeah, I like the clean ones, the modern ones, but I mean most people will look at a lot of different stuff. I usually use Nutra Display or Nutra Text. Yeah. Is there any way to see the commercials you make? We're gonna start to kind of break them down, I think, in like a series coming up. That's gonna be one way. Another way is probably roughstudios.com, where you have a couple of them. roughstudios.com. Is that it? I don't even know my life. Let me see. Slow. We should update this. Yeah, I think you have a couple of them there. Yeah, you do. But a lot of them are in Swedish, so that's not going to make any sense for you. Hey man, AJ Cruz from India, loved watching this series, struggle of filmmaking, really good work. My question is, what do you think about the passionate filmmakers? Basically, to be clear, they have a job, but they make films on the side. I think when you do that, you always reach a point where you want to go pro or where you want to live off it, because you cannot kind of stand doing stuff for, like, being employed doing stuff for other people. And I think having a job is a great way to start that. Like, it's much more safe and it's much easier to be creative when you have a separate job and you have a separate income, and then you can go out and only do the passion stuff. You don't have to do all the shit work that everybody has to do that wants to survive off it. So if you can do that for long enough for you to learn how to make films, how to create a reel, have a strong career before you leave that job, I think that's much more successful, or like you have the success rate higher by doing that. Because what you need to focus on is to be unique and to create your unique style and to get that across. And that takes time, and it takes a lot of practice, and definitely it takes doing a couple of projects before you reach that. I mean, people today are much more talented from an early age, I think, but they still lack a lot of the narrative storytelling in what they do. So it might look really amazing, but if you don't have everything on point, you probably won't stand out enough to have a career going off of that. So I would just try to focus on doing like your dream project that is exactly how you want to make it, and make that go viral in some sense of like doing a Vimeo staff pick or something like that before you take the leap. And if you don't want to do that, then I would just continue making it for fun. Like a lot of people do that. I mean, a lot of people that do documentary, they don't live off of that. They just do like a passion doc once in a while, and then they go back to doing their regular jobs, which could be anything. Could be teaching, could be making television, could be making commercials, anything. But I think if you want to make films, then you need to make films. So eventually you need to take the leap. Do you have the EVF for the Ursa? Yeah, I do. And I use it on the shoulder rig and easy rig. Yes, I do. I actually bought just recently, it hasn't arrived yet, but like a quick mount on top of it from small rig that I want to add, because I don't want it to be like, now it's just like flimsy and all that, because it's you have to have like a wrench type of thing to loosen it, and that is just too slow for me. So I just want a quick take the handle off type of thing with the EVF. So that one should arrive. I'm gonna make it quicker. What was your first real film job or commercial? Shitty ass commercial about or for a friend of mine's construction company, but not really the construction company itself, but it was for spraying insulation in walls or roofs of houses. And like, you should see it. It's probably the worst thing you've ever. So dumb. It's so dumb. And I think that's where everybody starts. Like you think, oh, there's a cool effect here. I overused the smoke machine, and it was just like, oh, this is so bad. That's the first thing I did. Cheap. I did it while I was in film school. I think that was the first thing I did. I did graphic design though before that. So I was still like doing commercials before that as well. But I think for like your first thing that you do, there's a funny thing where you reach these different stages in your career. Like the first thing you do when you do it like I did in film school, it's never gonna be anything decent, I think. But still, like, it was money, so I was happy to do it. As you get better and as you get like a certain talent level, you don't want to do that anymore. You want to do stuff that is kind of making you feel inspired and challenged and all that. And then that changes, and then you never want to go back to that. But I think a lot of the stuff that you do then is like it's so much shaping how you will do stuff in the future. Like if you get a job like that in school, you're probably more likely to know that you can do it again, and you're more likely to want to take a chance on your craft than if you didn't get a job while you were in school, for instance. Then you don't know that you're, talented in some way. So I think for that it totally made sense, but I don't know how to kind of progress from that, because once you've done that thing that's terrible, you need to make a lot of more stuff until you get really good at it. And I did a lot of shitty stuff, and like technically I knew what I was doing. I knew how to light stuff, and I've done like green screen work and all these things for commercials. But then I was just fed up with the whole commercial work because I just did shit for a while. And then I just left that. I went into TV. I did TV for a while, and that's pretty much where I found my style of filmmaking. And then I went back to do commercials after that. So I think you kind of need to think about it as like, okay, this isn't a rigid thing. Like if you go into commercials, that might not be where you end up, or it is where you end up, and or you go this way around, like through TV and commercials, and then you come back and you found your place in the commercial world. Because I think it's really hard if you go out, you do your first commercial job, it's gonna be a shitty thing. It's definitely not gonna be anything decent. I think it's not gonna be something that you want to do 5 or 10 years from now. So once you've done that, you need to figure out what's the best way to move towards where you want to be. And sometimes, like the commercial world, for me at least, it's mainly to kind of sustain myself. And I like it because I can play with things. Like I get budgets to do things and try out things that ends up in my films eventually, and I have a stable income. But other than that, I think that if I was only doing that, I would just suffocate, because it's so rigid in terms of how this thought process of working with brands, and like you can't do this, you can't do that. It should be like this, it should be like that. There's no like real innovation going on, and that gets boring. So even if you do stuff, you should go out and do other stuff to kind of get influenced and kind of find your style. Or if you want to find your style, that's how you should do it. You should go out of your way to try to challenge yourself to do stuff that you don't understand or know, to get better, and then come back to what your passion is, pretty much. That's at least how I got good at shooting. Like I got good at shooting documentaries by doing TV, and then I went out and made docs after that. And now, because I've done so much TV, I'm so efficient with what I do, and the TV I've done has always been trying to make stuff that looks cinematic. So it's always like I've done that since like 10 years back. So it's always been that. And I've always had no money to work with. I've always had like 5Ds to film with and that sort of thing. So it's not until like the last couple of years that I moved up to filming on other equipment and all that. So just like seeing how you can kind of find your way into your way of filmmaking is essential if you want to do like more jobs after the first job. I don't know, long answer to a short question. What's a good way to get into a television studio? Well, basically try to work with the production companies that makes the stuff that you want to make. Like they're always in need of people to help out. A way in is just to assist somebody or to work as like a PA or something like that. But that's just to get to know them. Then eventually you can show what you can do, but don't oversell anything. Like when you get a chance to talk about what you do, or when people ask what you do or that you make films, do that, invite them to something that you've made or something like that, or make them follow you just like we do on Instagram. Make them follow you there and communicate what you do there and make them see your talent there. But I think going from a PA to being, for instance, a DOP, that's a really hard thing to do. Once you go the PA way, you're gonna have a certain like genre decided on you. Like for instance, with certain clients that we work with, I only am seen like somebody that can do documentary. With others, I'm only seen as somebody that can do outdoor stuff. With somebody else, I'm only seen as somebody that can do the type of like serious topic stuff. And this is like the same place. It's Stockholm. It's just different agencies that see me in a totally different way. I've done the same thing, but depends on those things. So when you try to get in somewhere, of course, try to get in, like if you're a DOP or wanting to be a DOP, try to get in as a camera assistant or as a lighting technician or something like that. If you want to be an editor, then go and ask them to do the logging or that thing. Yeah, just get on set or get into the production somehow. Okay, that's gonna be it for now. But also, like, look up the TV studios that does your stuff, and then talk to the production managers or whatever they're called. Yeah. Okay, but that's gonna be it. Video tomorrow about grading. Just a short one though. But I will see you then. And yeah, bye bye.